Okay, welcome back to Mangg Plays the Best Games of All Time. We have a really interesting one this time. Last time we covered a very, I think, very mainstream, almost non-gamerish game, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, that pretty much everyone has heard of. Everyone's mom has heard of. You know, it's, yeah, very mainstream. This one, not really mainstream, and I'm sure many gamers have never even heard of it, especially considering it's now 23 years old. This is Vagrant Story from Square, now known as Square Enix, of course. So this is a role-playing game, a very unique one, and it was helmed by Yasumi Matsuno. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, he directed such classics as Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 12. Other things thrown in there. And of course, he's still in the industry. He's working on Unsung Story, apparently. Although, allegedly, he's not really involved in that anymore. So I don't know what he's doing. But, Vagrant Story was definitely a lesser known title compared to, say, Final Fantasy Tactics or, you know, Final Fantasy in general. It's not a turn-based RPG. It's technically an action RPG. And it's got a lot of very, like, forward-thinking, interesting systems, interesting designs. It's gritty. It's kind of dark and depressing a little bit. I found it's not like, there's no vibrancy. Vibrancy it's the opposite of that, really. It's just grim. As far as like the overall aesthetic and everything. Which does not help it in, you know, trying to get into any sort of mainstream. But it was critically acclaimed, and of course it's on this list. And plenty of gamers regard it as one of the greatest games ever made. So I'm partway into this game, like an hour or so. According to the save file, it says I've explored like 10% of the map or something like that. So I can't really tell you much about the story or anything like that. Essentially, you play a member of the VKP, the Valendia Knights of the Peace. And you're after this guy, this cult leader, who had his cult just laid siege to a duke's manor. And when you were at the manor, trying to confront him and stop him, you, like, shot him in the heart, and he didn't die. And then a fucking, like, dragon swooped in or a wyvern swooped in out of nowhere, and you had to fight that off, and he got away. You followed him then to this location, which is this old city called Le Monde, which used to be like one of the most thriving cities on the continent until the entire population was killed in a massive earthquake, and now, you know, most of the city is like underground and it's all just horrible. And there's monsters, of course. And so you're chasing after this cult leader to figure out, you know, what he wanted with the manor and all that, and what's going on. And it's this ongoing mystery that I have barely scratched the surface of. But apparently, the story and everything is really good. That is what I've heard. I can't really attest to that, but it is an interesting premise. Now, where I kind of fall off is the fact that most of the game does take place, like, underground. I looked at a video of, like, the whole playthrough and skipped around a bit. It does seem like there are a few locations with, like, trees and, like, somewhat like city streets, but mostly you are underground or in cave, you know, in dungeons or something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, the whole atmosphere of the game, including the music and, you know, everything is just very kind of dark and oppressing and all that. And you're just, and you know that this story is, like, not going to have a happy ending. You can just kind of tell that everything's a little dark here. And I personally just prefer my video games to be more colorful and vibrant and outdoors and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, they weren't going for that. So they were going for this, dark and oppressive, and I think they kind of nailed that, because it just oozes that. So, let's talk about gameplay then. It's an action RPG. You control one character, this guy, Ashley Riot, the Risk Breaker. And so you only get one character through the whole game. There's no multiple character, no party members or anything like that. It's one guy, which again adds to this oppressive thing. Like, he doesn't really have anyone supporting him or, you know, helping him out or anything. Like, it's rough. And I think the best way to just show off the gameplay is to just show off the gameplay. Or talk about it, at least. We got into a workshop. Following materials may be combined. Wood, leather, bronze. Oh, just anywhere in my inventory? I don't have to... Probably, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to talk about it yet, because there's just a lot to get into, isn't there? I mean, what happens if I do such a thing? Well, I done did it. Anyways, we're not even gonna go into that yet. I just wanted to show you a quick fight, and then we can move on to other stuff. Breaking it all down. Okay, here. Okay. Vile Scar. And a new ability. Sure. Okay, so that was combat. It's quick, generally, but it's more complicated than it looks, I guess. So, first thing is you have two modes. You have normal mode, which is what we're in now. It allows you to have both your hands free, so you can, like, climb up tall things. I seem to be... Oh, there you go. You can climb up stuff. And then there's battle mode, where you bring out your weapon or your shield if you got that equipped. And now you can still jump, but you cannot climb up stuff. And that does matter, because battlefields... You know, the battles here are often all over the place with the terrain because of the, you know, the earthquake has fucked up everything. So there's just a lot of terrain that's like you can step up here in battle mode, but you can't go from here to here in battle mode. Okay, so that's something. There's more to it. When you're in battle mode and you hit this button, you will bring up your targeting sphere. And you'll be able to target any enemy or, you know, targetable object that's in the sphere. The closer you are to the enemy, though, the greater your chance to hit. So, just because you can target things from a distance doesn't mean you always want to. So, here we go. So, the bat is in my sphere, and so I can target him. Now, depending on the creature, like humanoid creatures and stuff, you can target specific body parts. So you can target the head, the arms, the legs, the torso. Some creatures, you know, animals, things like that, they just have body. That's it. So, you can see here, based on this stuff, that if we attack this body right now, we have a 100% chance to do 58 damage to it, I guess, on average. As for the target, I'm not sure what all those things mean. I know that it's a beast, I can tell that. Beyond that, I don't know what single PRC and lit means. But if we just press the button again, we will just do a swing and hit it. And they don't have much health, so that's all there is to say. Here we've got another enemy. He's on the ground, but we can target his shit. So here, single PRC, lit, undead. And if we target its right arm, 100% chance to do 56. Head, 90% chance to do 62. Body, 100 for 52. Legs, 95% for 57. So, you know, depending on where they're armored, and, you know, you get into these big monsters that have, like, wildly different body parts and all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of potential there. That's combined with the fact that there's a lot of different weaponry. So let's take the time to look at weaponry. So we're using a rapier right now, which is, you can, the material it's used. Okay. Well, first of all, every weapon, melee weapon, consists of a blade and a hilt. And you can combine, you know, any blade with any hilt, and that will change its type and stats and stuff like that. But this rapier, it's a bronze blade, it's a bronze weapon, it's a piercing weapon, and it's one-handed. But there's more to it than that. If we look, we can see its effectiveness against different classes of enemies. So it's really effective against beasts, it's pretty effective against undead, it's very ineffective against phantoms, so on and so forth. And if we look at the Fandango, this is just a sword. It's edged instead of piercing, and this is a lot better against humans, better against dragons, worse in other ways. The Pink Squirrel is an iron axe and mace, so it's a blunt weapon, I guess. And it's just kind of decent at everything, or not, you know, it's okay. Rusty Nail's a pole arm, so this is a two-handed weapon. You can't use your shield. And you can see all of its stuff there. We also have a crossbow, which I've actually never used, and we could try it at some point. So on and so forth. Beyond that, then, you also see at the top, there's DP and PP. DP is damage points, I think. I think? Oh, God. It doesn't even say all this on, like, the Wikipedia page. There's just so many things. Okay. So, DP is damage points, and it's essentially your durability of the weapon. Okay, so the more you use a weapon, the lower your DP will become until you restore it. So the less DP that your weapon has, I guess if you hit 0, your weapon does half damage, apparently. And we probably should have repaired the rapier at that workshop, but whatever. PP is phantom points. These go up. And if it hits max, then you do like double damage or something like that. So, you know, it builds up the more you use the weapon, I guess. I don't all know. It's all very strange. Then there's affinity for elemental concerns. Because most enemies, I guess, have some sort of a weakness that you want to target. So a lot of enemies will have light weakness, making the rapier a really good choice. Some enemies will have fire weakness, dark weakness, physical weakness, blah blah blah. So there's all that you want to you want to keep in mind as well. And then the type. So there's blunt, edged, and piercing. And again, that factors in based on the enemy and based on the body part and all that. Bottom line, from what I have heard from people discussing the game, you end up switching weapons a lot. And there's no quick switch that I've seen. There's no easy way to just juggle 3 different weapons or something like that. You have to go into the menu like this to change your weapon. And that's one of the big reasons that I saw people saying that they love Vagrant Story. It's one of their favorite games of all time. But they admit that it's not very fun to play a lot of the time, because half your time is in the menus. I'm sure not everyone has that that thought, but yeah, keep that in mind. Okay, so you've got all your weapons and all that sort of stuff, and you're picking different weapons for different fights. Then, when you actually do the attack, let me try and do it. Nope. Fuck. My timing's off. You'll notice in the upper left it's saying slow or fast. There you go. Well timed, but I think I killed him. Yes. So what that is your break arts. Or no, your not your break art, your battle ability, your chain abilities. That's it. So if you press one of 3 different buttons at the exact moment that your attack hits, you will do a special effect based on what you've assigned. And look, I'm like an hour in. Look how many chain abilities I already have. So if I press circle right when my attack hits, I'll do a second attack right away without, you know, having to reset things. And that will do additional damage equal to 10% of the damage that I just dealt, and add that amount to my weapon's PP. If I press triangle right when I do it, it will add poison to the attack. The follow-up attack, I think. If I press square instead, I will then regenerate an amount of HP equal to 30% of the damage that I deal. And there's obviously going to be a bunch of these chain abilities. I haven't even gotten into risk yet, but, you know, we'll get there. So you can chain theoretically infinitely until the thing is dead or you fuck up. And obviously it's fairly easy to fuck up. I didn't show... I mean, I sort of showed how easy it was to fuck up. But when you do a chain attack like that, he actually does like a different animation, and it's a really weird sort of like, I would say, nonsensical animation, especially when you're using like a club or something. It just doesn't make any sense. But all right, let me try. There you go. So that's a different animation. And then, you know, it's tricky. I'm sure eventually you'd get very used to it because it doesn't change. But perfect. There you go. So when you are getting hit, it's the same thing. Because you have defense abilities that you can trigger if you press one of the 3 buttons right when you get hit. And that can also be really tricky because enemies often have like these long wind-ups for like magical abilities, and you have no idea when to actually press the button. But like if you press circle when you get hit, you reflect 40% of the damage back to the enemy. So there's that. When you are in combat and attacking and stuff like that, and especially when you're doing these chain attacks, you build up risk. And risk goes away pretty quickly when you're in normal mode. Like, quite quickly. It goes down not that quickly if you have your weapon out. Also, you regenerate health and MP when you're in normal mode at a decent enough rate. But yeah, when you're building up risk and doing chain abilities and all that sort of stuff, your risk will go up and up. And as it does, you will take more damage from attacks, and your accuracy will go down. So it becomes more and more dangerous as a combat goes on if you don't mitigate your risk. Now, there are items that you can use on the spot, like Vera Root, to lower your risk by 25 points, stuff like that. But it is something you have to kind of keep an eye on. The benefit of higher risk is, one, you have a higher chance of critting, I think, if you do land a hit, which is nice. And I think your healing spells are more effective. So there's that. And yeah, we didn't talk about spells. You get spells. So if you go into here, this is your quick bar, which is very nice to have, I suppose. You can see over on the right, I actually have 3 different schools of magic already. I have shaman spells, sorcerer spells, and warlock spells. So if we go into magic here, so warlock spells are all attack spells. I have one called Spirit Surge, summons the Spirit of Light to attack enemies. This costs 28 MP. Pretty simple. Also, I should mention that I was very confused for a long while in the upper left with like the HP, MP and stuff, because I thought it was like plus. I thought that was a plus symbol, like 252 plus 252, and I was like, what is going on? But no, that's a current slash max. It's not a slash, but read it as a slash. So right now I have 55 out of 55 MP. So this consumes, half my MP bar. Shaman spells are all recovery stuff. So I have, of course, heal. Costs 5 MP. And it's not an amazing heal at risk 0, but it's okay. And it's cheap. Sorcerers are otherwise like support spells. So I have Degenerate that lowers a target's strength temporarily. Costs 7 MP. And eventually I'm going to get Enchanter stuff, which has something to do with modifying affinity or something like that. Who knows? Okay, you still with me? Because we didn't get to break arts. Break arts are just special attacks. We drop down here. That are unlocked by using a weapon more and more. So the rapier has been my main weapon for a while now. So I've unlocked Rending Gale and Vile Scar. And these cost you HP. So if we use Rending Gale on his body, boom. I mean, it's pretty sweet. And then he jumps in midair and we slash him. And we chain it. And we miss a lot. And we keep chaining to do like no damage whatsoever and just extend this. And then he misses us because he hit the fucking the sarcophagus, because that's a thing, I guess. And then we cast a warlock spell and we cast Spirit Surge on his dumb body, and we look at the cool animation and blast him to bits. Boom. Yeah, so that's combat in Vagrant Story. And there, I mean, most of the game is combat. That is kind of the main focus of the game. There is some puzzle stuff, some not really platforming, because your jump is fairly lame. But there is a lot of puzzles and things with crates you have to do in between combats. But a lot of it is that combat system we just talked about. To its credit, it's not horrible. I think it's certainly pretty interesting. And it's a lot more involved and like interactive compared to, say, Final Fantasy VII. Ow. When you're just, you know, mashing a button to kill everything and getting gobs of XP. But I think the crux of it, and I think most people would probably agree, this is certainly a game desperately in need of a remake. Oh, we have a cutscene. Or not a cutscene. We have a cutscene. Okay. That was a weird graphical glitch, but... Alright, so this is a dragon enemy, I guess. Some lizard people. So we probably could look at our weapons, I guess. See if we have anything that's good against dragon. Not really. I mean, the rapier's not great, so we could go to the Fandango. Which is a weaker sword overall, but... And that's not even counting the fact these are both edged weapons. Maybe I shouldn't use an edged weapon. Supposedly, you eventually get like an inspect spell or something like that. It's pretty sweet. Fuck. So, you know, if you like stuff like Super Mario RPG or Sea of Stars more recently. There were some other games on PlayStation I can't remember that had, I think, kind of similar systems. There's been a few RPGs like this. The sort of timed hit. I think in Final Fantasy VIII, I think you could do a timed hit with the gunblade or whatever. If you like all that and adding a little bit more interactivity to an RPG instead of just stats and smacking people back and forth, you know, it's certainly got that in spades. You'll be doing plenty of chaining and timing and all that sort of stuff. I'm not very good at it, though. I don't know what this lizard man is doing, though. Too fast. Okay. Oh, we got him, though. Okay, so we get a glaive. We get Knuckles. We get the antidote spell, cure poison. And we get an elixir of queens, which will add a little bit of HP permanently. So yeah, I should mention there's no levels or anything like that. But there's just so many other systems involved that, like, you're not missing the fact that there's no levels. Fuck. Fuck. Let's heal. Let's look at this glaive. From what I've heard, generally no one recommends using two-handed weapons, because giving up the shield is too much. It's too shitty. It's not worth it. Fuck. Fuck. I might die. Oh, I died. Yep, I died. Yeah, not an easy game for a newcomer to get into. That is something that I've heard before, and I've heard that it's very easy. Like, once you get a little further in this, it's very easy for a newcomer to come in, not understand all the different systems and mechanics of, like, affinity and weapon types and all that shit, and basically do, like, no damage to your enemies and just get slaughtered. It's probably a game that's too complicated for its own good as far as mass appeal, but at the same time, it's regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. I don't know where I sit here. I can't say I'm super interested in playing further because it is old, and it's not like, for me, like, yeah, for me, being turn-based makes games that otherwise might not be playable due to really being old age and stuff like that, makes them somewhat playable. Like, I can handle pretty much anything that's turn-based, just because it's always kind of workable and manageable, turn by turn by turn. So for me, when a game isn't turn-based and I have to, you know, interact with these old systems actively like this, it makes me less inclined to keep playing and check it out. I would rather just watch, like, you know, a full let's play or playthrough or whatever, a long play, just to kind of experience the story and stuff like that. So I think it's a game that really, really could benefit from a full-scale, like, remake. With, you know, modern 3D models, voice acting. I don't know if I'd want them to, like, simplify all the mechanics or anything like that, because I'd like that it is all, you know, kind of complicated. What I would like them to do, though, is make it far more intuitive. You know, make it far more clear to the player how they should be interacting with all these systems, why they should be juggling different weapons. You know, definitely put in, like, weapon wheels and stuff like that to be able to just switch weapons on the fly. Yeah, I think a lot could be done to make this game more enjoyable to a wider group of people. As it is, I think it's just going to kind of fade away. Like, if they never remake this, Vagrant Story is not a game that's really going to get talked about that much outside of some small specific circles. But we're entering, I think, into a sort of a renaissance age here of remakes of old RPGs. So, I mean, we just got a Tactics Ogre remake, so I wouldn't be shocked if Square Enix continues to delve into their back catalog and pulls out a Vagrant Story remake. But another thing that I would say kind of hurts it is the aesthetic and the fact that it's all pretty much underground in like dungeons and stuff like that. People sitting down for a big RPG, I feel, kind of expect something a bit more grandiose, and maybe they could pull this off as being more grandiose, but I don't know, it just is meant to be kind of dark and oppressive. It kind of reminds me of a game called Arx Fatalis, which came out pretty close to this time period. Arx Fatalis was sort of like an Elder Scrolls ripoff, but it was entirely underground. Like, the plot was that the sun had failed, and so everybody just lived entirely underground, and there were trolls and dwarves and all that. And so you never got out of the cave throughout the whole game. And Arx Fatalis, I think, was a really interesting game with some really cool gameplay mechanics, but all I ever remember of it is just an eternal cave. Like, that's it. Like, imagine Skyrim, and you go into one cave at the start, and you never, ever leave that cave, and it just lasts, like, 20 hours. I don't think Skyrim would be as big of a deal if that was the case. So I kind of get that vibe from Vagrant Story. Obviously, again, this game's on the best games of all time list, so clearly it's got its fans. But I don't know. Yeah, it hit the bare minimum for the list. You know, it was on six publications. This one, Game Informer from 2010. This is a French website, 2011. It's on 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die. I agree. If you're gonna be an obsessive, like, video gamer that wants to experience everything, yeah, check out Vagrant Story. It's one of the 1001 video games you must play before you die. That does not necessarily make it one of the best games of all time. Slant Magazine from 2014, Games TM 2015, and Polygon's 500 Best Video Games of All Time from 2018. What's interesting here is that none of these are really, like, contemporary. None of these are from early 2000s. Saying, like, holy shit, Vagrant Story, this is one of the best games ever made. This is amazing. Critically, it did do pretty well. 9s out of 10s. Famitsu actually gave it a 40 out of 40. A perfect fucking score. That's insane to me. Famitsu has only given perfect scores to 29 games in its entire history. And this Vagrant Story was the third one they did after Ocarina of Time and Soul Calibur. They wouldn't do it again until Wind Waker. So that's amazing that they just loved the shit out of Vagrant Story and there's no flaws. Crazy. I think there are flaws, personally. Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, yeah, if you're interested in, you know, retro, unique RPGs, you've either already checked out Vagrant Story, and loved it, or you've checked it out and it's just too archaic and cryptic for you. But I think, you know, you should check it out. But yeah, I mean, I hesitate to say it's one of the best games of all time. But I think a good remake that still respected the original and its mechanics, but just made it more intuitive and improved, I think maybe that could be one of the best games of all time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But that's all I'm going to say about it. I know again, I barely scratched the surface. From what I understand, like, it's not an insanely long game. How long to beat has it at 24 hours average for beating the main story. Which, for a PlayStation 1 RPG, I think is on the short side. Final Fantasy VII, 36 hours. Final Fantasy IX, 38 hours. Final Fantasy Tactics, 40 hours. Yeah. You know, most of these RPGs from this era were a decent length. So this one's definitely on the shorter side, if that's an encouragement for you to check it out. Although I will say completionist average is 72 hours. That's quite a bit. So there must be some good side stuff in there. Anyways, yeah, that's all there's. Very interesting. Rarely does an RPG require that much like explanation of all the mechanics of combat. And again, like you know, especially like as a younger gamer or something like that, you'd come in and just be like, "Oh, there's a bat," and you press like 2 buttons and you swing your sword at the bat and it dies. That's like a very, you know, the tip of the glacier of all the different combat mechanics in Vagrant Story that you're gonna kind of have to interact with if you want to actually beat it. So yeah. Anyways, my name is Mangg. This has been Mangg Plays the Best Games of All Time with Vagrant Story. I'll see you fine folks next time.